Okay, we're moving on with Rabbi Appel Sefer, his beautiful Sefer, the Concise Code of Jewish Law, and we're up to chapter 10 of section 4, the Eruv of courtyards. And Donnie is going to be our reader. Donnie, hold on. Okay, Donnie, you read.
Okay. According to Torah law, if an area is surrounded by walls, it is considered a Rishus Yachid, and you are permitted to carry within that area on Shabbos. However,
Okay, so biblically speaking, as long as it's a private domain, which means it's surrounded by walls, you could carry there. So you might think, okay, I can carry there in let's say there was a enclosure around this whole block. You might think, no problem, I could carry there without any issues. Okay, go on.
Chazal enacted restrictions regarding certain Rishuyos Yachid.
So it means to say, even though technically speaking, I could theoretically, if this whole block, let's just assume for the sake of argument that this whole block was enclosed by a wall, theoretically I could carry there, but Chazal made certain restrictions. Okay, go on.
Two or more Jews who share a courtyard, each living in his or her own house, are forbidden to carry on Shabbos from the house to the courtyard,
Okay,
from the courtyard to the house.
so if there's two or more Jews living in that courtyard, then it's a problem. And Chazal said you can't do it unless, we'll say, you make an Eruv, and then you'll be able to do it. Okay, go on.
They are also forbidden to carry from one house to another, even if it is not through the courtyard, as for instance through a door or window between the houses. Even though the entire area in question constitutes one Rosh Hashanah according to Torah law, Chazal prohibited carrying in this circumstance.
Okay, so nevertheless, so Chazal said you can't just carry just because Rosh Hashanah. If it's shared by two or more Jews, you have a problem carrying there. So therefore, so what do you have to do? Go on. Because we carry it. Well, a lot of us carry. So how do we do that? How do you carry in Silver Spring or in DC? How do you do it? Go on.
While enacting these restrictions, Chazal also established the mechanism to permit carrying within a courtyard. It's called Eruv Chatera.
Eruv. So the word Eruv means a mixture. So it's like a mixture of the courtyard. So basically, you're saying that this is like a mixture of the courtyard. So what's the reason for this? Well, before we get to the reason for it, one such an Eruv, go on.
Once such an Eruv is established, you're permitted to carry within the courtyards which adjoin the houses. The Eruv is established in the manner outlined below.
Okay, so look at the footnote. The reason for an Eruv Chatzar. So if you make this, if you have two more Jews living in the courtyard, you can carry, since it's surrounded by walls, you can carry as long as you do an Eruv. And what does an Eruv mean, Donnie?
It means joining.
Right, but what does that mean practically speaking for this scenario? It means that you're going to basically take up a loaf of bread, which everybody participates in, a challah, or a matzah, and you say a brach on it, and then you could carry in that courtyard.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the reason why you need this? Let's look at footnote 3. Go on, you read that, Donnie.
Where two or more Jews or Jewish families live in adjoining houses or apartments which open onto a common courtyard, or in separate apartments in the same building which open into a shared hallway, carrying, while not a Torah violation, is nevertheless forbidden because of the similarity to private and public domains. Because common areas may be seen by some as similar to Rosh Hashanah, if unrestricted carrying were permitted, it might lead some to blur the distinction and think that it's permissible to carry into an actual Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, Chazal prohibited such carrying unless an Eruv was first made. The logic behind the Eruv is that the Eruv Chatzeros serves to join the residents in the building or courtyard so that they're considered as one family and their premises as common to all.
Okay, so the reason is because it looks like the public domain, even though it's a private domain, since there are multiple people living there, it looks like a public domain, and so therefore you might confuse it with a public domain and think that you could also carry in a public domain. So when you join it together, it's like everybody's one family. So when you make an Eruv in Kent Mill, it's like everybody in Kent Mill is one family. And when you make an Eruv in DC, it's like everybody in DC is one family. Okay, go on.
Okay.
The tenants
of two adjoining courtyards with a doorway between them may establish a separate area for each courtyard, permitting them to carry in their respective courtyards.
So let's say now we're talking about not just one courtyard, but two courtyards next to each other. let's say there's there's a wall around Hemlock Street and there's a wall around Holly Street. So they're next to each other. So then what can you do? So you can carry from one courtyard to the next, you carry within that courtyard. However, go on.
They are, however, then forbidden to carry items that are in the house on Shabbos from one courtyard to the other. All of the tenants in both courtyards can, if they wish, establish one Eruv, permitting them to carry from one courtyard to the other, even items that are in the house on Shabbos.
So they can establish, go on.
They may also establish one Eruv jointly, even if there's only a window between the courtyards, provided it measures no less than 4 tefachim in width and 4 tefachim in height. If it is within 10 tefachim of the ground, and it has no grate, as the window provides a common space to establish both courtyards.
Without going into all the details of the exact measurements, the point is that if the two courtyards are somehow joined by the minimum requirements, then you can make one area for everyone. So now all of a sudden we have a bigger area that's being included. Go on. Law 3. Go to Law 3.
If there are two courtyards, one within the other, and the residents of the inner courtyard have no exit to the street except by way of the outer courtyard through a doorway that provides passage between them, the tenants of both courtyards can, if they wish, establish one Eruv jointly. If they did not make an Eruv jointly, and the tenants of the inner courtyard alone made an Eruv, the latter are permitted to carry in their courtyard, while the tenants of the outer courtyard are forbidden to carry in theirs.
Okay, this is a little bit, I mean, I don't want to go into this one because we don't really have our courtyards like that, so this law is not really relevant. But go on to Law 4. I mean, it's straight from the Gemara. This is a passage from the Gemara, but our houses are not built like that, so we're speaking practically here. Okay, go on to Law 4.
A building that has apartments on an upper floor and a balcony from which the tenants descend by means of a stairway into a courtyard and proceed from the courtyard to the street is likewise governed by the law as it applies to two courtyards, one within the other, with the balcony considered as the inner courtyard.
Okay, without getting into the balcony, the more relevant thing is that if people, we'll see from the next law, that if people are in an apartment building and there's no Eruv in the city, then they can only carry in that apartment if they make an Eruv. So that's law number 5. Look at law number 5. Tenants who live
in separate apartments in a building with a common hallway providing entrance to each of the apartments are forbidden to carry from the apartment into the hallway until they establish an Eruv.
So let's say for example, let's say you're in Paris and there's no Eruv in Paris. Let's say, and you're in an apartment building. You can only carry within your apartment building. Let's say your next door apartment mate wants to invite you for Shabbos dinner. So you can only carry the food if you make an Eruv in that apartment. Go on.
Likewise, if one apartment is divided into 2 rooms, which serve as separate dwellings for 2 tenants, even if the inner room has no exit other than a doorway opening into the outer room from which both tenants exit into the courtyard, the tenants are forbidden to carry from one room to the other until they establish an Eruv.
Okay.
If the apartments or dwellings belong to one person and he rents them out but retains an interest in them, for example, the right of storage, the tenants do not restrict the right of storage. The tenants do not restrict the owner since they are considered the owner's guests. Both the owner and the tenants are permitted to carry from the dwellings into the courtyard, even if they did not make an Eruv Chatzeros.
Okay, this is a little bit interesting. Let's look at the footnote there. The owner of several apartments or rooms. Go on.
The owner of several apartments or rooms reserve the right of storage, even if only in a designated place in the apartment. Halacha considers it as though they are residing together, even if the rental is for more than 30 days. They are permitted to carry without an Eruv Chatzeros, provided he is actually stored in the dwelling an article that cannot be moved on Shabbos because it is very heavy or is muktzah and may not be moved even for the space it occupies. According to some poskim, if whatever is stored, such as a stove or refrigerator, is rented to the tenant, who has use of it under the terms of the rental, the owner is not considered as retaining an interest in the dwelling and an Eruv must be made.
Okay, so it's a little complicated. Whether or not if you're in an apartment, whether or not you need to make an Eruv. Oh, Mordechai and Aviva. Here, give them both, give them. So, okay, so now, how you guys doing?
Fine.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. I don't shingles, it's just the, yeah, I think it's wearing off, I think I'll definitely be totally fine by the morning. It's fine, it's just a little annoying. Because I took a vaccine, 354. They're almost done with the vaccine. This is why people don't like vaccines, because they They make you feel a little cruddy, but they protect your health in the long run. Okay, we'll do one more paragraph. How is the Eruv Chatzera established? How do you do this?
On Erev Shabbos, one of the tenants in the courtyard takes a whole loaf of bread, which he or she personally owns, we usually use box of matzah, and assigns a share of the bread to all of the residents in the courtyard by handing it to another who accepts it on behalf of all the residents, and saying the following in a language understood by the recipient: take this loaf and acquire a share in it on behalf of all the Jews residing in this courtyard. The person accepting on behalf of the residents then takes the loaf and raises it at a tefach. Then the one making the Eruv takes it back and recites the bracha. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us concerning the precept of Eruv. After the bracha, the following declaration is made: by virtue of this Eruv, it shall be permitted for us to take out and to carry in from the houses into the courtyard, and from the courtyard into the houses, and from one house into another, for us and for all the Jews who reside in this courtyard.
Then one more paragraph, then we'll stop here.
Because all of the residents have acquired a share in this loaf of bread or box of matzah, and with the onset of Shabbos, it is the home of the one who made the Eruv. Halacha considers it as though they all have a share in the home in which the Eruv is kept, since their individual share of the Eruv is housed there. That being the case, they are permitted to carry from the houses into the courtyard and from the courtyard into the houses, as well as throughout the courtyard. Indeed, the word Eruv denotes merger, and that is what is accomplished through this Eruv, merging of properties into one.
Okay, beautiful. So now this is the introduction to Eruvin, which is one of the most complicated areas of halacha, one of the most difficult tractates of the Talmud. But it's obviously essential because you really can't have like a modern Jewish community, Shomer Shabbos and everything, unless you have an Eruv, or else it makes it too onerous for families. Oh, Moshe. All right, we'll stop here the recording and we'll go to the parsha.